All right, we're going to go ahead and continue with solving quadratic equations by graphing. I have the steps labeled down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and find the axis of symmetry, and we're going to find the solutions. Whenever you have these type of questions and they're asking what x is, they're actually asking where does that graph hit the x-axis. Remember, the horizontal line is the x-axis. There is three different types of solutions. There is one solution, two solutions, or no solutions whatsoever. So either you have two answers for x, one answer for x, or no answers for x. If you have one answer for x, that means your graph only hits the x-axis at one point. Let's say we have two solutions. That means the graph hits the x-axis at 2 points. And remember, whenever you have that the quadratic equation that has that x squared, whenever you see an x squared, you always think of parabolas no matter how the equation looks like. And then let's say we have a parabola, but it looks like it does not touch the x-axis whatsoever. You see the two arrows meaning they're never ending going up, but in this case, it's never going to hit the x-axis. There is no solutions. To see that, you have to draw out the quadratic equation. So we're going to go ahead and draw it out. What I'm asking for your homework is just simply write down what the roots are and what x is. So either one solution, two solutions, or zero. Let's look at the first one. So we're going to learn how to graph it. So this is review. First thing you do, we have this equation here. We always find the axis of symmetry. So it's then negative b minus 2a. Negative b, if you notice here, it's x squared minus 36. B is always a number in front of x. We don't have x, so we don't have x squared plus x. So in this case, we're going to put a 0 there because we don't have it. 36 is considered the constant, it's the whole number. So negative b over 2 times a is the number in front of x squared, so over 1. So then if you simplify it, it's negative 0 over 2, anything divided by 0? 0. So that means the axis of symmetry, that means if you fold that graph, fold that parabola in half, it's going to touch exactly on those sides there. So the axis of symmetry, remember, it's a vertical line, meaning going up and down, at 0. So x equals 0 right here, so I can't really draw it because the line's already there. But that's where my dotted line or my axis of symmetry will be. Next thing, we find the vertex. To find the vertex, you plug in 0 in place of x in this equation and solve. So we're going to write this as y equals x squared minus 36. We're going to go ahead and plug in 0 in place of x in the whole equation. So we have 0 squared minus 36. Y is equal to negative 36. And your vertex is the starting or ending point of the vertex. So it's this point, or this point right here. So then it's a coordinate, x comma y. We found x was 0. We found what y is negative 36. So then we have this coordinate. I'm going to go ahead and graph it. So I did in increments of 5, so this is 35. 36 is going to be here. 0, you're not going left and right. Negative 36, you're going down all the way to negative 36. If I were you, I would show your numbers, just in this case, for the sake of time and for the sake of my markers, I'm just doing that like that. Next thing we do, we find our y-intercept. So we always graph as we go. Third step, 0 comma c. C is considered your constant. Your constant is that last number here. It's a number without any variable. In this case, in this equation, it's negative 36. So it's going to be 0, negative 36. It looks like we already graphed it there, so we're going to move on. And the last one, this is where it's kind of different. So I'm going to rewrite this equation. I'm going to put y is equal to x squared minus 36. We are going to create an x and y chart. And the reason why we do this is so you can see it clearer. You're going to choose two values on the left side of the axis of symmetry, two values on the right side. And the reason why we do this, before we only did like 1 or 2, but in this case we're going to do 4, is because we need to see exactly where it hits the x-axis. The more points you have for the line, the clearer you see the whole parabola. Here, so remember the axis of symmetry is right here. You're focusing on the x-axis. So remember, you're choosing numbers from this number line right here. From the line right here, the dotted line here, I'm choosing 2 numbers from the left side and 2 numbers from the right side. The numbers I chose for the left side is negative 6 and negative 4. So I chose negative 6 and negative 4 from the left side. From the right side, I chose 4 and negative 6. It doesn't matter which numbers you choose. You can just choose any numbers from the left side, any numbers from the right side. I choose 2 points from each one. 2 points from this side, 2 points from that side. So now, and remember, it's from the axis of symmetry. You'll see later on how it's going to be different. Now, let's go ahead and solve for it. If you plug in x in place of -6 in this equation, you end up with this. And then you solve for it. -6 squared is 36. 36 minus 36, 0. Same thing here. -4 squared minus 36. You're just replacing x and then you're solving for y. So let me just solve this out real quick. 20. I solved this out. And I got this. So you went ahead and you plugged it in, you find your values for y, and you end up with this here. And then go ahead and graph it. So when I graph it, I have -6, 0, 2, 4, this is 5, 6, 0. Actually, it's this way, -6, 0. So that means my first dot is going to be right there. -4, 20. So -4, 5, 10, 15, 20, -20. It's going to be right here. 4, -20. And then 6, 0. So when I graph it, I end up with a parabola like that. And now, our last part is we're trying to find the solution. So you're not drawing me a graph and saying, that's my solution. Your solution is where? Where does that graph hit the x-axis? It hits it at 2 points right here. It hits it at -6, and it hits it at +6. Your two answers is -6 and +6. Next one. B. -x squared minus 2 equals 0. First thing we do, find our axis of symmetry. So to do that, it's -b. Keep in mind there is no bx. So therefore, it's 0 divided by 2 times a, which is -1. This will give you 0. So anytime you divide a number by 0, it's 0. There's no such thing as -0. Now, second thing, we go ahead and plug it in for y. Y equals -x squared minus 2. So then I have y equals -0 squared minus 2. There's no such thing as -0. Our y is end up being -2. So our coordinate is, our coordinate is 0, -2. So after that, we find out our constant. Our constant is a number by itself. Remember, it's 0, c, which will then be changed to 0, -2. That is our constant up here. So if I'm looking over here, my axis of symmetry, again, it's at 0, so it's down here. You can't really see it. Second thing is our vertex. Our vertex is at 0, -2. So this is a 5, -2. Would be somewhere around here. And then we have our y-intercept, meaning where does the graph hit the y-intercept, and it's again at 0, -2, so it's the same place. And then the last step, we make a chart. So y is equal to -x squared minus 2. We have our x and y value. You choose 2 values from the left side of the axis of symmetry and 2 values from the right side. And just to make sure I'm using the right numbers, I'm using -4, -2, that's from the left side. And then +2, +4 from the right side. So I'm choosing 2 from left, 2 from right. And when I do that, I go ahead and plug in -4 in place of x in this equation. And I end up with -18, -6, -6, -18. If you're unsure of how I got those numbers, pause the video and plug in this x in place of the equation and see if you end up with -18 or -6. When you do, I go ahead and plug it in. So -4, 18. So this is increments of 5. So -18 is probably around there. -2, 6. This is 5. So 6 will be around here. 2, -6 should be around here too. 4, -18 should be about here. So when I graph it, I get a parabola like that. Now, they're asking me, what is my solution to this whole problem? We're focusing on the x-axis. And if you notice here, the graph does not hit the x-axis whatsoever. There is no solution. So it's one of your 3 answers here. See, we have x squared plus 16 equals 8x. We're going to go ahead and make sure everything is on one side. We need to make sure it's equal to 0. So now I'm subtracting both sides. I have x squared minus 18x plus 16. You can't add the 16 and -18x. They're not like terms. Now, we go step 1 again. negative b over 2a, negative 18. So remember, you always have the negative sign, but your b now is negative over 2 times a. 2 is just, a is just 1. So you simplify this. X is equal to, let me just see if I have it here. I have positive 18 divided by 2, and that is equal to my 9. So I go ahead and simplify step 2. We go ahead and find the vertex. We go ahead and plug it in. Y is equal to, when we plug it in, we have x squared plus or minus 18x. Oh, I'm sorry, this is 8. 8. And negative 8 divided by 2, and this is where I get the positive 4. Sorry. So now we go ahead and plug it in, so it's not 18, it was just 8. Now we go ahead and solve for y. So now we have y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals, or just like that. We plug in what y is, y, or x is 4. And when we plug it in, we keep on solving. 4 squared, 16, minus 32 plus 16. And you end up with a solution of, let me see where my work is, 0. So that means your coordinate for number 2 is 4, 0. As my vertex there. So you're going step by step. You're finding your axis of symmetry. You're plugging in what x is in place of x in this equation, solving for y, you have another point. So let's go over here on my graph. I have here my axis of symmetry. That means that line that divides in half is at 4. So you're creating a vertical line. So from the first two, you couldn't see it because it was right at that exact line here. But in this case, you can see it. Your next one is your vertex, meaning where you start or stop, which is 4, 0. So that means my coordinate for my parabola is right there. That's my starting and stopping point. Third step is finding your y-intercept, so it's 0, 3. Sorry, 0, c. And if you look here from this equation, after you moved it over, your constant is a number by itself, so that means it's 0, 16. Let's go ahead and graph that. 0, meaning I'm not moving left or right. 16 is positive, so it'll be 16, 18, 20. It'll be right about here. So that's my next point. That means the graph is going to hit somewhere on this line right here. And the last step, 2 points left side, 2 points on the right side. So for here, I chose different values. I chose 0 and 2, 6 and 8. So I'm looking at this line right here. So I'm choosing 2 values for it. So I'm using 0 and 2. Actually, I should have used something else, but whatever. So 0 and 2 on the left side. I'm choosing 2 points on the right side of it. And I chose 6 and 8. You can do 6 and 7. Doesn't matter. Any number is okay. So x and y, our equation is y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 16. Again, you can pause the video and see how I get the y answers. But my y answers will be 16, 4, 4, and then 16. Plug in values for x, you solve for y. Now, we go ahead and graph it. So 0, 16, I already have that. 2, 4 will be right here. 6, 4 will be right here. And an 8, 16 will be right here. So then when I graph it, I have a graph like that. Now, last thing, what is my solution? How many times does my graph hit the x-axis? It only hits it at one point right here. And it hits it right at 4. So x is equal to 4. You're not looking for x equals something, y equals something. It's only x, strictly x. Last one, we're done. Nope, 2 more. So now here we have x squared, or negative 6x minus 9 is equal to x squared. So we're going to try to get everything on one side. I'm going to move everything over on this side. So then I add 6x and I add 9. And this, so it cancels this out. So my equation will be 0 equals x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now from this point, I'm going to go ahead and do steps 1 through 4. x is equal to negative b over 2a. 6 over 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then I have my negative. So that means my axis of symmetry is at negative 3. Let's go ahead and draw that dotted line. It's always a vertical line. I have it right there. Next thing, get my y. So then I have y is equal to x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now I have negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 9. And then when I solve all of that out, all right, sorry for the glitch. Now let's go ahead and solve for it. X is negative 3. We plug in negative 3 in place of this, and we solve for y. Y will be 0. So then our new vertex is negative 3, comma 0. So I have a dot here. But that means I have negative 3, 0. It's going to be right over there. Now, let's go ahead and do step 3, which is 0, comma c. And our c is our constant, and our constant is 9. That is going to be right about over here. So then, moving on to the last one, choose 2 test values on the left side of the x-axis, 2 values on the right side. And I chose negative 5, negative 4, negative 2, and negative 1. And when I solve for them, again, you can pause the video so you can see how I got these by plugging them in here and solving for y. I get these coordinates here. So now I have negative 5, 4. It's going to be right here. Negative 4, 1. It's going to be like right here. Negative 2, 1. It's going to be right here. And negative 1, 4 here. So I end up with a quadratic like that. Not the greatest, but it looks just like that. And the last thing is to see where the graph hits the y-axis. It hits it at negative 3. So the answer would be negative 3. Last one, and we're done. All right, we're going to solve for the last one. So for this one, there's equations on either side. I'm going to move this one over. And I'm going to move this one over as well. So the reason why I'm not putting underneath is because I'm not adding into the 6x. So then I have x squared minus 6x plus 13 is equal to 0 after moving everything over. So now I go ahead and do steps 1 through 4. First step, find the axis of symmetry. X is equal to negative b, which is negative 6, divided by 2a. A is just 1. So I go ahead and do negative 6 divided by 2, negative 3, but then we have the negative, so that makes it positive 3. My axis of symmetry at positive 3. Next step, go ahead and plug it in. I have y is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 13. I plug in x in place of 3. When you go ahead and solve for it, y is now equal to 4. My vertex is 3, 4. So you go ahead and graph that here. So it's in increments of 2. So we go ahead and graph it right there. Now we do step 3. Your constant, 0, 3. Your constant in this equation is considered positive 13. So then you have 0, 13, see 10, 12, 13 is going to be right there. And your last step, I'll just do over here. We have y is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 13. X, y. 2 values from the left side, 2 values from the right side. The values I chose was 1, 2, 4, and 5. When I go ahead and plug in 1 in place of x, or 2 and 4 and 5, and I solve for y, I end up with 8, 5, 5, 8. Now, if I graph it, 1, 8, it's going to be right here. 2, 5, it's going to be like right here. 4, 5 is like about right here. And then 8 is right here. So I have a graph that looks something like that. And then last thing is I'm looking for where the graph hits the x-axis. It does not hit the x-axis. There is no solutions. So you have to draw these graphs out to see how many solutions are there. All right, just letting you know about this is the last lesson that you'll ever have. I'll see you guys next year, hopefully. Make sure you're diligent. You will have 25 problems tomorrow and 25 problems the next day. And then I have a video showing you how to do the problems so you can get ready for the exam. Do not ask me any questions for the exam regarding anything that needs to be changed. Maybe you can't enter a certain fraction into it, that's fine. All right, bye-bye.